Mountains, beach, city. Nope.
I live in a beach in Portugal.
Beach in Portugal. Little condo, little shack. Doesn't matter. If you're in Portugal on the beach, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, not as much.
In a tent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what else?
Probably Boston, because it's not as congested as like New York, but it's still like vibrant.
So you want to be in the city? Condo?
Yeah.
Okay. Gets a little cold in the winter.
Oh, it's like a term.
All right.
It's like a term, it's not.
All right.
It's like-
Anybody else?
I thought I had a question. My dad.
Hold on. Hold on.
I say peanut butter.
Non-cabin, like,
In Oregon, you want to be by yourself. You want to be secluded?
cabin.
It's a question.
If I didn't get this, I just write out sticky note.
Oh, just answer the question on some of your
Oh, I want to live in a place with a lot of trees.
So probably the mountains.
Yes.
Okay. Not where?
Where? I like up north, like
Oregon.
Oregon.
There you go.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking. Oregon, for sure. Yes.
My favorite city.
Seattle in the city? All right. A lot of rain. A lot of rain. Like the rain?
That's, I mean, yeah.
Or Seattle. Seattle's
Private beach. Okay. Right.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Got it. Okay. Book?
Mississippi.
Yeah.
If it had to be like somewhere in the States, it would probably be like,
Doesn't have to be in the States, but go ahead.
oh, that is one of the questions.
Oh, well, go ahead. In the United States, sorry.
Well, if it had to be anywhere in the States, it would probably be like Johnstown in Ohio, so it's like,
Wait, oh, shh. Where in Ohio?
Johnstown,
Johnstown? Where's Johnstown located?
by Licking County,
In King County?
Licking County.
Okay. Is that northern, southern, eastern, western Ohio? Central Ohio? Okay. I'm familiar with Columbus.
It's, yeah,
Not
not,
new to Columbus. Okay. All right.
If I was in the States, it'd be Seattle.
Seattle. I got 2 votes for Seattle. Lots of rain in Seattle. All right. All right. So, in the news, and then there were 4. 4 what? 4 teams?
No, that's the, Republican.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 Republican nominees left. Not nominees. I'm sorry, candidates. So, DeSantis from Florida, Nikki Haley from South Carolina, Chris Christie, he's still hanging in there. And the other person whose name I cannot pronounce, someone, right. So, the common theme with Christie, Haley, and DeSantis is that they were all former governors. Well, I shouldn't say former. DeSantis is still the governor of Florida, but 3 of them are governors. Do you know why governors are popular candidates in general?
I guess because they've already like led a area.
Yeah, so governors, unlike senators and representatives, right? They manage budgets. They manage states. So they manage organizations, right? Whereas if you're coming from Congress, whether it's the Senate or the House, you're not managing any organizations other than your individual staffs. So the governors kind of have a built-in advantage when they're running for office because they have a better resume in terms of their accomplishments. Does that make sense? Right, when you're in for office, now you may not like the governor, how they do it, but they have better sense of how things operate. There was a retired agent arrested as a spy for Cuba. That's more on that. That just came up. Guy breaks record for ping pong. Let me see if we can roll this one. I want to see the ping pong. Can I double click on the double ping pong?
Oh, no, you have to do it.
I have to do it from there.
I'll do it.
I want to see the ping pong. It's a world record. Okay, world record for ping pong. Watch carefully, this is on the timer.
This is one of my fastest records ever. My name is David Record Breaker Rush, and I have broken over 275 Guinness World Records. And let me tell you how this one became over twice as fast as the first time I broke it. It started in 2018, when I set a goal of breaking 52 Guinness World Records in 52 weeks. It came down to New Year's Eve. I was on vacation in Costa Rica with my family, and I'd only broken 51 records. I decided to break the record for the fastest time to bounce 5 ping pong balls into 5 glasses. Previous record just under 5 seconds. I was at El Avian, the famous restaurant inside of an airplane. I happened to be sitting next to some KLM airline crews who were celebrating New Year's Eve far away from their families. They asked, "Do you want to join the party?" And they did.
Ready, timers? Ready, set, go.
Stop. Okay. I got it on the 9th try in 3.51 seconds, breaking this Guinness World Records title. It turns out I had a different one disqualified, leaving me at 51 for the year. So close. I did get that goal in 2021. Somebody else then got a 2.81 second bounce, which means I had to take this record back. During COVID of 2020 was a great time to practice for this one. I practiced and I practiced and I practiced.
Stop.
I got it.
3, 2, 1, go.
Stop.
Go.
Stop.
2.03.
And 2.03 seconds. Come on! The trick was someone else got 2.00 seconds. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! It's even more frustrating when I look back at the video and see that all 5 balls had actually landed in all 5 cups before the stopwatch turned to 2 seconds, which means it's within the margin of error. It was several years later when I was finally able to make a record application again for Guinness World Records Day 2023. But this time, I needed to practice seriously.
The last time I broke this record, Guinness changed the rules. It used to require a 16-ounce cup. It's that size. That's now the maximum size. We have these smaller cups that don't require the ball to jump quite as high to get in. Now, the trick about practice is one, you're efficient with your time. The more efficient you are with your time, the more practice you get in. I don't want to be chasing these balls all around. So I've got the books set up to stop them from bouncing. And this is what a practice session looks like. 3, 2, 1, go. Stop. All right, 1.88 seconds, so good enough time, but only a 40% hit rate. Now, if I could get down to 1.6 seconds, that would be amazing. I think it's going to end up being around 1.8. With the human timers, it's tougher to get the stopwatch started and then move the hand. If you jump the gun, it disqualifies it. When I time it, I can start the stopwatch behind my back, and I know exactly when it's starting, so I can lift up my hand right at the right moment. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Stop. All right, 1.94, 40%. 1.88 seconds with another 40% hit rate. First ball's hitting my index finger. Go. Stop. 80%, 1.87. Going okay speed, not as fast as I want to. Go. Stop. So I'm down to 1.71.
Anyway.
Okay, obviously, this individual has far too much time on his hands. My God. That's all we got. All right, so let's go to separation of powers. Right. When down. Next and down. Okay, so time to take your notes. So. So yesterday we spoke about separation of powers, and we kind of delved into a little bit with checks and balances, but let's focus on a couple of main thoughts here, okay? I should take notes. You folks good? Again, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands and I'll respond, okay? Of the three branches of government, the legislature is deemed to be the most powerful. And this is largely for two reasons. One is they're creating the laws, right? That's their primary responsibility. Secondly, they also control the purse. So they control budgeting. If you control making laws and you control budgeting, you've got some power, right? So within that mindset, there needs to be a system built in place where one branch doesn't have too much power, where they can just dominate the entire legislative process. So we have checks and balances, okay, where different branches have the ability to check other branches so that to prevent any abuse of power from occurring. Okay? Okay, so back to here we are. Makes laws, legislature, judicial interprets laws, executive enforces laws. Again, kind of a recap from yesterday. Okay, so remember, so let's talk about override vetoes. The president can veto legislation. So if the Congress comes up with a bill, right, and it gets to the president's desk, House passes it, Senate passes it, the president can say, nope, no can do. I'm going to veto it. Right? That's the president checking on the legislative branch, right? Saying, I'm going to exert my authority and say, no, we're not going to pass this. Should that occur, Congress has the ability to override a veto. Say the Senate has the ability to override a veto. The challenge with overriding a veto, what do you think? Do you think there's a challenge overriding a veto?
Majority.
How many senators do you think it takes to override a veto?
2/3 of them?
Yep. Absolutely. So, but if they do override a veto, that would be the legislature saying, hey, we're gonna pass this anyways. I can't recall the last time that occurred, but they're rare. And they're designed to be rare. Because we have a system of checks and balances that should be enforced, right? Remember my example from yesterday about Canada bombing the US? I can make fun of Canada, I'm Canadian. So Canada lobs a few bombs over, right? And then they say, oops, our bad, we didn't mean it. Just testing you. Who has the ability to, and we go to war with Canada in the meantime. But then Canada says, our bad. Our bad. Who can initiate a treaty? President, right. But it's Congress, the Senate, that ratifies it. Say, hey, Mr. President, great, you wanna make good with Canada? It needs our approval. Checks and balances, right? Presidential appointments. So, how do we nominate Supreme Court justices? Starts here, right? President has the ability to nominate a Supreme Court justice. Last one nominated was Mr. Gorsuch, I believe. No, Gorsuch? Can't remember. Anyways. But in order to get the nomination through, it has to be approved by the Senate. Senate approves. Okay? And it's not like it's not where you need 2/3 of the Senate to do that. You just need a simple majority. But in the past, getting majorities, getting judicial nominees approved used to be easy to do. It still is on the lower court level, but in the Supreme Court recently, it's become very challenging because of all the partisanship that goes into that. And when you have a Senate that's divided pretty much evenly, it can be quite challenging getting those nominations through. Impeach. Well, you folks have gone through a few impeachments recently, right? What does it mean to impeach? And what is an impeachment?
Oh. It's like similar to being like voted as not being able, like not being fit to.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's the Congress initiating it, right? And then what happens is it starts in the House of Representatives where they vote to impeach for whatever the reason may be. But generally speaking, the reason it has, broadly speaking, it's about competency, so forth.
If the president is impeached, can they run again in the next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry. So let's, hold on. Sorry, spoke too soon. Let's talk about the impeachment process first, then I'll answer, okay? So the House starts the impeachment process, right? So they vote on it. And it goes through. Then the next part of that process is the Senate. Now, I lose track of all the impeachments and all these inquiries, but Mr. Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives, right? Started there, but never approved by the Senate. Again, I just mentioned the Senate's 50-50, so it's gonna be very hard. And you need, in impeachment, it's not a simple majority. You need, I believe, 60 senators.
2/3.
2/3, it's still 2/3? Thank you. 2/3 of senators need to impeach. Okay? So, back to the question about, hey, can you run again after you've been impeached? The answer is no. You cannot. But Mr. Trump has not been impeached, remember? So, keep that in mind. He was only impeached by the House, never by the Senate. Make sense? Okay. All right, so back here, notice the checks and balances are, because the legislature has so much power, the legislative branch, a lot of the checks and balances are focused on them, right? So, the legislature creates lower courts, they can impeach justices. What happens if you have a rogue justice? Let's say you have a justice that's not following the law. Well, that justice can be impeached, right? Keep in mind, these justices have lifetime appointments. Pretty good job security. So to get rid of one, you have to impeach them. So this is their responsibility: confirming judges, amend the Constitution, create lower courts. These are checks that the president has, the executive branch has on the legislature. Can veto bills, signs bills into laws, and recommends legislation. So what the president can do is, he gets a bill and says, I'm not gonna sign it, I'm gonna veto it, but hey, I've got a few ideas on how you can fix this. And send it back to be reconsidered. I'm not gonna sign this, but if you do X, Y, and Z, I'll sign the next one. So here, so they create the laws, right? Well, they interpret the laws and they declare whether laws are unconstitutional. There's actually an interesting case that just came up, or it's come up in the courts, and it has to do with taxes. And the Supreme Court has to determine whether it's constitutionally approved. Well, if it's constitutional for investors to pay capital gains or to pay taxes on unrealized gains. So what happened was, here's the case in a nutshell. Person buys $15,000 worth of a stock, but it's held in India, and it jumps to $40,000, the stock, okay? So he's made an unrealized gain of $25,000. But because it's a foreign investment, the US is taxing him on that investment, even though he hasn't sold it. So he has a $25,000 potential tax liability on something that he hasn't sold. He's challenging that through the court, saying, hey, I shouldn't be taxed on this. So now the Supreme Court just heard it. And the reason why it's a big deal is because if he wins, then it impacts a lot of other people. Okay? When the executive branch signs things into law, it can still be under judicial review. Think Obamacare. When Obamacare was finally passed, they went through a number of legal challenges, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court didn't rescind the law, They didn't declare unconstitutional, they declared a portion of it unconstitutional. So then Congress had to rewrite it. Well, actually, I should say, the Supreme Court struck out the portion of the law that they deemed to be unconstitutional. Okay? Again, acting as a part of the checks and balances process. Right? So think Obamacare. These are lifetime appointments. They are just there to interpret the laws. Okay? So this is their checks and balances on the president. So you notice how it goes full circle? And you might think to yourself, boy, this is pretty convoluted. Think James Madison. And again, it's brilliant. We are the longest surviving democracy by far in the world today. And I would submit to you, most of it is because of this. Now, it does build frustration into the process, right? Things don't get done in a hurry. Things that you think should get done don't get done. It was designed this way. All right. Now for. Okay. We're just going to review. This is just part of the review. Okay? So watch and listen.
Hi, I'm Craig, and this is Crash Course Government and Politics, and today I'm going to try to explain two fundamental concepts of American government that students and citizens often confuse. Team Jacob and Team Edward. Separation of powers and checks and balances. Team Jacob.